the cleaning show, and this video we're going to do a demonstration on the Force, which is fitted to a Tennant T300 scrubber dryer. So our product Force is designed to be a heavy-duty attachment, heavy-duty cleaning machine to fit onto your big scrubber dryer. With this attachment, you can now deep clean 100% of the floor surface area. So what we've done here, I'll just show you how this has been fitted. If you just come in a little bit closer. On the front of the machine, we've got two horns here which act as your hose wind, and we've also got this lower bracket which is firmly fitted into the tank. So you've got this rubber fitting here which you can easily lift the machine out like so, and then when you're done that just locks into there like that. So moving up to the upper bracket, this bracket here holds the switch housing into place firmly, and the correct method to remove the machine is to just pick it up from the front here, pull it out of the lower bracket, and then slide it that way out of the upper bracket. You can then easily unwind the hose. So we have about 3.5 meters of hose on this machine. For example, if we were in an airport or a train station and you have some seating to clean right underneath here, you have two switches, one for the spray, one for the brush. As you can see, we can go right underneath this benching, all the way underneath to the back. And then when we're done, we can just clip it back on the machine very easily. Simple as that, and then you can continue with the big machine, cleaning the big area. We have a look at the head of the machine. You've got a double squeegee at the back which is drying the floor. You've got your brush with 400 RPM giving you very powerful scrubbing action, deep cleaning the surface, and a single squeegee blade on the front. So the beauty with the product is that it's basically maintenance free. Just twist these two red tabs here like this, and then the squeegee pops out. You can throw this away. No tools needed to change the squeegees, so the end client can do that themselves as and when that's needed. We want everybody to have a good back for a long time in their career as a cleaner, so we have a telescopic handle which you can extend. You should have a nice straight back when you use the product. Like this, with a straight left arm. No more bending down when you use the product. I'll just show you how the suction works on this one. Now this is the suction from the Force, and this is normally in a storage position like this, nice and neat and tidy out of the way. And this hose is normally connected to your squeegee. So when you want to use the Force product, you just clip this off, plug it onto the Force, switch on the suction, and you can control the brush and the spray on there. I'll show you inside the batteries as well. You can see here we've just connected the negative to the negative terminal on the battery, connected a new cable to the positive on the battery. It has a fuse in here to protect the machine, and everything is very neat and tidy and presentable in there. So if you have a Tennant machine in your building, but you have these small areas which you've not been able to clean, by simply adding the MotorScrubber Force on top of your Tennant, you can now clean 100% of the floor surface area. If you want to see some more information, please visit our website, motorscrubberclean.com. This video is to show you the tools needed to fit the Force onto a scrubber dryer. So if you just come in and have a look, one of the first things we're going to be doing is fitting the brackets on top of the machine. So to do that, we're going to have to just drill some small holes into the top, and we need a drill set with all different size drill bits. We're going to need an electric drill, and also a short screwdriver. From inside the tank you can tighten up the screws and get them on. So that's going to be needed to fit the tanks. Also a set with all different types of screw fittings, that's going to be handy. Also some Loctite glue, so when we tighten up the screws on the bracket like this, I'd recommend putting a bit of Loctite on so that they don't come loose. Okay, so Loctite. Also then underneath the machine, when we cut the water pipe and we're going to fit the T-piece in, we're going to need a Stanley knife or maybe some side cutters as well. Okay, so then when we fit the hose fitting onto the end of the hose, I'd recommend some blunt end scissors to cut off the sheath on the outside of the hose. We recommend CT1 adhesive to glue the fitting onto the end of the hose with a silicone gun. When we fit the cables onto the batteries, most machines use a 13mm spanner, so we need one of those. It's also handy to have some wire strippers as well, just in case you want to cut down the cable and put some new fittings on. Pair of pliers just in case. When we put the brackets in, we may need to put some inserts in. Normally you can just, when you put this on, for example, drill a hole and screw it straight on. But the odd machine, you need to put like a threaded insert in, and you can then glue a thread on and then twist it on. Okay, so it's handy to have some of these just in case the odd machine needs it. We're also going to need a pencil to mark out on the machine where the bracket's going to go, and a tape, but I prefer to use a vernier caliper so you can set the measurement exactly, you can tie it in and you can get much more precise measurements with this. Okay, so with these tools that should be everything needed. There is only one other thing. If you're going to be fitting a lot of forces, then when you strip off the hose, the sheath off the hose, you may want to use like an urn like this with boiling water in it. It makes it pull off a lot easier and safer. So you can buy these online for about £40. They're only cheap. Otherwise, just a bucket with some boiling water in, soak the hose in, and it makes it a lot easier. Right, so we're going to fit the pump to the Tennant T300, and we've made a special plate to fit it underneath in a mounting spot, which fits perfect. So this is how the pump comes out of the box, and we're just going to unwind those cables. Okay, and basically this pump is going to mount on this plate like that. We're going to put some washers on and a nut on. We're going to hold it, fit it to this plate, and then this plate is going to fit underneath the machine. But the correct way to do it is we're going to fit this plate first on the machine, and then we're going to fit the pump onto it. So we'll do that now. Okay, so we're going to fit the T300 pump plate in this spot underneath there. Okay, so these are the correct screws. Just going to put a little bit of Loctite on. Obviously the pump is vibrating quite a lot, so bear in mind this machine is going to get a lot of use over the years. You know, it needs to be able to withstand years of use, so we don't want the screws vibrating loose. Okay, that's one.
to make sure that's nice and tight. Now we're going to fit the pump now onto this plate. So we're going to slot those little legs over the threaded bar. Like so. And then we're going to put a washer on. And then we're going to put a nut on. Just get the nut on as far as you can with your finger first. Just leaving a bit of thread because we do want to put a bit of Loctite on that thread as well for the last little bit to hold the nut on. Like I was saying earlier, there's a lot of vibration on the pump and this machine needs to last years of use, so we don't want anything working loose over time. If you do have a machine lift, it makes it a lot easier so you're not on your knees. I'm just going to put a little bit of Loctite behind. Just nip it up with the pliers. We'll actually ship this with nylon lock nuts, so you don't need to use Loctite. The pump underneath the machine, we just need to thread these cables from the pump into the battery compartment. So this hose comes from inside the battery compartment. What we're going to do is we're just going to use some masking tape and just tape the cables to this hose so that we can pull it through from inside. We're going to pull this hose from inside. There we go. So these are the pump cables. And then we can just thread that hose back through where it was before. And then we will connect these to the battery later on. Alright, so we've sorted the cables out. Now we need to connect the inlet water pipe from the pump to the water tank on the machine. So you've got an inline filter on the pump. What we'll do is we'll just take off the squeegee to give us a bit more room. Okay, move that over there. So you can see underneath the machine you've got the clean water pipe here. So we're going to cut that and we're going to put this T-piece in. Now this will make the force spray pure water from the tank, water only. We are talking to Tennant about possibly hooking up the force to the Echo system so that you have the Echo electrified water to give better results, or also the detergent as well. But for now, we're just going to fit it to the water line so that you can spray water through the force. The force cleans amazing with just water because it's got such powerful scrubbing action. Okay, so what I've done is I've just took this machine outside and emptied the tank because we're going to cut this and we don't want if it's full of water, we don't want to flood the floor, so there's probably still a little bit in, but hopefully not a lot. Yeah, so I'm going to make a cut there. Okay, so we're just going to cut this water pipe here. What we'll do is, Tennant very nicely uses push fit fittings, so we can easily take this pipe out here, and we're going to put this on the bench and put a T-piece in. So this is the water pipe off the Tennant. We're going to cut that in half. Try and make a nice straight cut with your Stanley knife. Now, because we're putting this T-piece in, if you notice, we're gonna be extending the length by that much. So that means we actually need to trim this down so that we don't end up with too much water pipe. So push that onto there like that. Push that onto there like that. Okay, and we can also put some clips over on here and tighten them up to make sure that's an absolutely watertight seal which will last a long time. So we're going to connect the water inlet from the force pump. So we want to make sure this is out of the way, nice and safe. So we threaded it down the back there, just past the echo pump, underneath the machine, pull it through, okay, and then this is the T-piece we did earlier. We're going to just fit that into its fittings, and we just want to make sure we cut the force inlet pipe to the right length. So if you can see under there, I'm just going to hold that with my finger on the right length so that I can make a cut here. Okay, so now we're going to connect the force inlet pipe onto the T-fitting. Make sure you push it all the way on, like so. You can see that's all the way on the T. Connect that back into the tank. Make sure it's pushed all the way into the push fit fittings. And you can see that's a very neat and tidy connection underneath the machine there, well out of the way. And the pipe here for the inlet pump is also out of the way. Check it's not in the way of any pipes. Check it's not in the way of the squeegee bracket. You can see that's going to last a very long time, and it's not going to be disturbed. These are the optional extra mounting brackets for the force. So normally every machine uses these. These are like a wind. We call them the hose. The hose wind horn. So these fit on the machine, and then the hose can wrap around it. So normally a machine will use 2 of those on the front. Sometimes you can also get 2 on the back as well. The more you use, the more hose you can get per wind, basically. Okay, so this bracket is then fitted on the front of the machine, and the handle goes in there. Every machine then uses the upper bracket, which the handle locks into it from this way, and then the hose is clamped on from this way. So this is a pretty standard item, but most machines tend to use a different mounting plate for the upper mount bracket. So if you're fitting this onto a flat surface, you may fit that on there like that. You may also fit it that way. If you're fitting this onto a vertical surface, you might screw that in there like that, and then that fits on there like so. If you've got a ride-on machine, we then have some special long brackets which hook onto the top of the machine. This can then come out like this. This fits onto the bottom. So any machine that you have, we can make special plates to fit this to make it fit any machine. Okay, so one of the first things to do when you've got a new machine like this T300 is decide where you want to put the force. So normally on a pedestrian machine, a walk behind machine, the machine is best on top, down the middle like this. You need to check that it doesn't get in the way of the controls. Okay, so check it doesn't affect this, check you're not obstructing any switches on the panel, and try and mount the brackets into the main tank, not into the lid. Okay, so if you've got a ride-on machine, you can hang it up on the back and we can make a special bracket to do that. So the first thing to do is we want to mount the upper bracket, because this locks on and locks in that way. So this is going to stand here like that. Okay. You then have the lower bracket like this. This is going to mount around here so that this pushes in like so. You can see it's a special rubber design what clamps on like that. We're then going to fit two hose wind horns on the front, one there and one here. That's for the hose to wind around. So, first thing we're going to do is T300 has a special mounting plate. It's a little bit longer. That is going to mount on there like that. In fact, it's like that. This is going to go into that slot there like so, so that the machine locks in there like that. So now we're going to fit this into the machine. Okay, so to fit the upper bracket, first thing we need to do is mark out the central point. 18.5. The next thing to do is we want to mark out this bracket is going to mount this way, like that. Okay, so we also want to mark out the central position on this plate. That's the middle bracket. So that's going to line up with the central mark we made there earlier. Okay, so we had to make a special bracket for this Tennant T300. So we're at the trade show, London trade show now. Just going to fit this last bracket to finish off the installation video what we did the other day. So this is the upper bracket we looked at earlier, and this pretty much fits every machine, and then we have different brackets to fit different models. So this is going to screw onto here like so. This is what locks in the upper handle. So we'll just tighten that just by hand just for now. So this bracket here is going to bolt into the top of the tank like that, and the hose is then going to clamp into this piece here like that. So what we need to do is we measured the central point. I've just marked that out with pencil, and then we just want to put this in the right position so that it doesn't affect this lever here, and it doesn't affect the lid either. Still open the lid, we can still use the panel there. We've marked out the bracket in the position where we're going to do it. What I'd recommend to do is just, once you've got it central, use a smaller drill bit. This is about 4mm drill, just to get your first hole in.
Okay, so that's just going to make it easier for the bigger drill to go in a second. But what we're going to do on this one, because we can't get to the back of it to put a nut on, we're going to use a screw-in threaded insert. I'm going to glue them in with some resin. So this is going to bite into the tank, and it's got a thread on the inside of that. So I'm just going to change the drill bit. This is an 8mm drill bit. We're going to put this threaded insert into the tank, and to make sure this doesn't come out again, we can put some 2-part resin on there. So we're just going to mix a little bit of this up and put it onto the thread and then screw that in. We used an 8mm drill bit because we want this to be a really tight fit into the tank. Don't want it coming loose. The machine's going to be used for years, so it's going to be taken on and off hundreds, maybe thousands of times. So we want to screw that in until it's flush with the tank. And we'll just take off that bit of excess. The plate is going to cover that up as well. We're going to do the same on the other side. These bolts now are going to screw in there. We are going to leave it for about half an hour just for that resin to set before we screw it in, because otherwise, before we tighten it up, we don't want to break the bond between the resin and the tank. But that's pretty much tight on there. We'll come back to this in about half an hour and we'll tighten that up nice and tight. And as you can see, it's not in the way of the lever. The lid still closes perfectly, like so. The lever's fine. So the only other thing we can do is, earlier on in the video we marked out where we're going to clamp it. So we're going to clamp the hose into this back bracket here. Just going to undo this screw. This is the position where we clamped it on. So this hose goes to the bottom. This piece here has got a thread in it that clamps the hose so it cannot be pulled out. That screws onto there like that. Make sure that the hose is always in one place, keeps it nice and tidy, and make sure you can't kind of over pull the hose and pull it out of the machine. Line the thread up. Get that in there nice and tight. And there we have it. And make sure you can't pull the hose out. This is going to lock into there like that, okay? And then extend the handle. Hold it there like that. So that the machine is hanging down freely, it's not touching the tank. Now we need to find a good position for this, somewhere where it's going to go on easily, somewhere like that. We also want to make sure that you've got space here for the spare hose to go through, because we're going to want to get 1 or 2 winds through there. So this looks like a good position to mount this bottom plate. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mark with my pencil the horizontal lines, and then we're going to find the central position for this bracket. So you can see I've marked out where that bracket's going to go, and we're going to check from the inside that we can screw it into position properly.
We just marked out the lines, but I've just put my hand inside just to feel what's happening inside the tank, and where this curve is, it feels like there's quite a big curve. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually move this down a little bit, because from the inside of the tank we want a really flat surface for the screws and the washers to go on. So that's going to be the new position. Now what we need to do is just find the central point. So we're going to measure from there to there. Okay, we've got 29, so that's 14.5 centimetres. We're going to measure from that left edge 14.5 centimetres, which is there. So that is the central point. We're also going to measure the central point on that, which is 16. Actually, probably easily just do it by eye, middle of the thread. So now we've got the central point. Just draw all the way around this, so you've got the outline of where it's going to go. Okay, so you can see the outline where it is. Now we're going to measure what that distance is of the central point of the screws, and we're going to mark it out on there so that we can drill it. We're going to just measure these holes here. It's best doing it with like a vernier caliper. We're just going to measure to the center point of that hole there, which is 6 millimeters. So from the edge of the outline we did earlier on the center point, we're going to mark out 6 centimeters. So I'm going to drill a hole there, and it should be 6 centimeters on the other side as well, which it is 6 on both sides. So that's the outline of the edge. We're going to drill another hole there. Check they're in line. Alright, so one there and one there. To make that easier, we'll make a paper template for you, like in the instruction manual, which you can put on there and you can just drill it straight away. Okay, so we've marked out the holes. Just so you get it precise, start off with a smaller one first. So I think this is a 4mm drill bit. Get it exactly on that point there. Keep it steady. Make sure you're drilling through at the same angle as the tank as well. There we go. And now we're going to, the screw, what we're going to screw that through with is 6 millimeters. It's an M6 screw. So we're going to put a 6mm drill through there now. Okay, this is a 6mm drill bit. Drill through the tank. These are very, very strong tanks. Tennant has very thick tanks as well, about 8mm thick at least. Really, really strong. No problem whatsoever drilling through the tank. We're well above the water line. We're also going to fit a rubber washer from the back as well, which will completely seal it. So once this is on, especially with a bit of Loctite, that'll last forever. No damage of it, no question of it damaging the tank or anything. It'll last the life of the tank. Stainless steel washer first, then the rubber washer. That is going to get tightly pushed against the tank and seal it. We're going to put a bit of Loctite on there as well once we've got it through the tank. So do one first. There we go. Because the Tennant tank is actually thicker than most other tanks. Probably do with a slightly longer screw on this. You can line that up and then tighten it up from inside. One on. Put the Loctite on first on this one. That is absolutely solid, gonna last forever. Loctite will keep it in. No question of it doing any damage to the tank, so that's perfect. We're gonna lock this into the top bracket there like that. This is gonna get extended to the right length. Okay. So on this model, that's now clamped in. That will be fitted later on. We've got a nice gap here for the hose. So what we want to do now is just check that the hose can fit underneath here nicely, and we're going to mark the position of the horn. The best way to mount the horn, it goes this way, so it's pointing forwards like that, is just get one of them on in any position and then match the other one exactly. So if we're looking at this hose here, let's just say we're going to mount that there like that, just to try it. Check that the hose goes underneath here freely, which it does. Okay, so that looks like the perfect position. You want the horn kind of as far apart as you can because it gives you extra length on the hose. If this distance is like 30 or 40 centimeters, then you've added 30 centimeters to each wind of the hose. So the wider these are apart, or the further kind of forward they are, the more length of hose you can get on from one wind. So to me, this looks like the best position. Also, aesthetically, you know, you want it to look as good as possible. So, you know, you could get somebody to hold it on and see what it looks like. But we fitted one of these before, so this looks like the best position. So we're going to draw around this, and then we're just going to, before we drill the tank, always check. Put your hand inside and just check what the tank feels like from the inside, because you want to make sure it feels nice and flat. If the tank's curved inside, you know, the washer's not going to want to sit very well. So we've drawn that out. Okay, we can take the machine off now. Put this out of the way. What we're going to do is just put our hand inside, see what it feels like. I can feel that this part of the tank from the inside is perfectly flat. So what we're going to do is we're going to measure this distance here, mark out the hole and drill that. We're going to measure from the front. Which is 24.25. That is the central point there. So we're going to drill that. Recommend starting with a small one first, just so you can get a more precise hole. This is a 4mm drill bit. Remember to drill through at the same angle as the tank. Okay. Now with a 6mm drill bit, which is the same size as the screw we're going to put through, so the thread will create a seal, and it's going to have a rubber seal from behind. Okay, so that's the hole done. This is now ready to be screwed on from underneath. So, stainless steel washer, then rubber washer. Put it through. Bit of Loctite on the top. We will recommend a length of screw because, as I said earlier, this Tennant could do with a slightly longer screw, just so you've got more thread. I'm going to tighten that up from inside. They want to be angled, like pointing outwards. Get it as tight as you can. You don't want it to be able to twist. Okay, just give it a little twist, check it doesn't move, and that's on perfect. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take this measurement from the side and this measurement from the top and replicate that exactly, mirror it on the other side. I've took the screw out so that it can sit flatter on the tank. We're going to take that measurement from the top. So that looks to me like about there. Tighten that up. That's there. We're then going to take that measurement from the side, from the longest point to there. So, sit the highest point on that mark, and the lowest point on that mark, and visually as well, check that they match. You've got it at the right angle. That looks perfect. Draw around it. Okay, drawn around it. I'm going to do that same measurement what we did earlier. From the front point to the centre. We're going to re-drill that as well. Starting with the small one. Line it up on the X, drill straight through. Now with a 6mm, drill through. Steel first, then rubber. So take that filter off, give you a little bit more room. Get it as tight as you can by hand first, and then screw it on with the screwdriver. Check you've got it at the right angle. Check you've got it lined up with your drawing. Just try and locate the screw head from inside first. Once it's in, then get a firm hold on it. Check that's nice and tight. And we're done. It can go back on. Okay, so it's just the upper one, which we'd have done first. And that's ready to go. So we fitted the upper bracket, we fitted the lower bracket, we fitted the horns. We now need to get the hose to the correct length. So what to do is, firstly, just feed it round like that. Okay. So we're just mocking this up first before we cut it. Just checking that we've got it to the right length. So this hose is going to get clamped onto the upper bracket there. Okay, so what I've done is, if you just come closer, you know, this upper bracket is going to be mounted here. I'm just making a mark with my finger. Now this hose is going to be clamped into here like that. Okay, and then just check visually. That first wind is nice, it's gone round the horns well, it's gone through this gap with clearance, it's not in the way. So you've got two nice, neat winds, and this is going to be clamped here. You couldn't really get another wind on it, but this will probably give you about 3.5 meters use. So I'm just going to put some masking tape around this point here. Marked out where this is going to be clamped into position here like that. Okay, so if you look now, we've got this excess, which we need to trim off. So we've marked that out with masking tape. What we're going to do is we're just going to separate these two hoses up to the white mark. Just leave it a little bit later, we'll tidy this up later on. So basically, turn this round. This is going to be clamped into position here. It's going to be clamped in with that bracket there like that. On this model, we're going to, when we're using the machine, we're going to pull this pipe off the squeegee and connect this onto here. So this needs adapting as well. But as you can see, this is way too long, this hose. So what we would be better off doing is if this fitted onto there, like so, and then this will stretch to fit on like that. So we're going to cut this down. We only need it to be this long. I'd leave a little bit of slack on just in case in the future it's split and you need to redo it. Leave it a little bit longer. Never cut into yourself. It does have a metal coil in it, so we're going to need some snips to cut that off. So this is now excess, okay? This is now waste. But this is our universal adapter, what comes with the machine. So we need to keep this. This is going to get thrown away. what we're going to do is this outer sheath needs peeling off. But before you peel it off, soak it in boiling water and it comes off a lot easier, and you'll prevent risking damaging the grey hose underneath. Okay, but before we do that, we can also see what we're going to do with this, which this is your cable, what's going to connect to the batteries, and this is your clean water pipe. Okay, so you could coil it up and find somewhere inside the machine, but to make it look a lot neater, you're best off cutting it down to the right size. So let's have a look at what we're going to do with this. When this is mounted here, this pipe is going to slot down there nicely, down there, and we're going to feed this inside the batteries down here. Okay, so the blue pipe is going to go on the pump, and the cable is going to go through there into the battery compartment. But before we do that, we can just trim off this black here to make it look more professional. Alright, so we've trimmed off the vacuum hose. This is going to be clamped here, like that. This pipe is going to go down this slot, down here. So it works perfectly on this Tennant, as if it was meant to be. This is going to go down this gap, nice and neat, out of the way. And then I want to have access to the cable and the water pipe down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim off, because I need the water pipe to come out and go into the pump. So I'm holding it here. I'm going to cut off this outer tube. Be very careful that you don't cut the cable or the water pipe inside. It is a clear tube, so you can see what you're doing. So we can now pull this off. Basically what we're doing is we're just trimming off everything so it's the perfect length for this machine, because we want it to look as if it was meant to be. So we supply the machine with an 8-meter hose so that it fits any machine. But all we need to do is just trim that down. So that's going to be there. Now we've got this to the right length. You can see this outer sheath here. We're just going to trim that back as well, make that look neater. Okay. So that is going to go down that slot, like so. The water pipe is now going to connect to the pump. You just have a look underneath the pump. This is just going to go into the outlet, like so. We're going to thread the cable into the battery compartment. We don't want it to catch anything, so if you just come under here, we're just going to go underneath the water pipe, like that. Now we're going to go into the battery compartment. Okay, so that's nice and taut. So now all the electrical connections are ready to be made. So we're going to connect the negative for the force now. This cable comes from the pump. This is your negative. You've got your brown cable here. This is the positive for the pump. Okay, so we want to connect this loop connector, which says on it, connect to battery negative terminal, to there. You've got these insulating caps on here, so I'm just going to put a slot in that so that this can thread through there. Just be careful that you do not bridge that connection there. That is standard safety precautions when fitting batteries on scrubber dryers, because you will get a big spark. Nip it up nice and tight, give it a pull, check it doesn't come off, and that's that one done. That cap can now go over the terminal, like so. So we're going to do the same for the positive.
You can see here, we've just connected the negative to the negative terminal on the battery, connected a new cable to the positive on the battery. It has a fuse in here to protect the machine, and everything is very neat and tidy and presentable in there. We just need to take this outer sheath off before we fit it. So we've just got some boiling water in here. We're just going to soak that in there 3 minutes. Okay, so we've had this this hose in the boiling water for about 3 minutes. It is important to soak it in boiling water because it makes this really easy to pull off. If you try pulling it off without softening it up, there is a risk you could like rip a small hole in there, so you don't want to do that. Just soak it in boiling water. This comes off really easily then, up to the point where you've marked before, and then using your blunt end scissors, just trim it back neatly. There we go, so that's trimmed off neatly. Okay, so that is going to be mounted here, and then we just need to glue this onto the universal bracket. So this bracket is going to slot onto there like so for storage, and then when you want to use it, get the suction hose from the squeegee and they push together like that, and that will give you suction on the force. So to glue that on, we recommend to use a special adhesive called CT1. It's a really strong adhesive which is resistant. It's waterproof basically. You can even put it on in wet conditions, and it'll make sure that connector stays on for life. Okay, so we're going to fit our universal fitting onto the Tennant. So this is different size fittings. It'll fit any machine. So just check, which one you need. It fits onto there. Fits onto there. You've got a thread inside, threaded hose. So we're going to screw it on and use the CT1 to hold it on. So just work it into the thread. It's nice and evenly into the thread inside there. Work it all the way around. Screw it on. You can see from inside when it's all the way on. Like so. Just in case you've got a bit of excess glue inside there, which is maybe going to block the hole, just use a bit of scrap cardboard or something, just to make sure that hole is nice and clear inside there. That's okay. So I'd leave it overnight to fully set, and then you know that's never going to come off. It's waterproof. This is going to get put on and off hundreds of times. You want it to last forever with no problems.